Energy is up. Hey everyone, it's Owen here from Urbane Cyclist. Today we're doing a fun 2025 update. And what you may ask? The Marin Nicasio 1. So if you're not already familiar with the Marin Nicasio series, there's a few different variants in that model series from Marin. This is going to be covering the 1, which is kind of their base model, which most of their other bikes are going to be based off of. So the Marin Nicasio is a great series. We really love it here at the shop. It's probably one of our kind of crowd favorites, and the main reason for that is it's kind of the jack of all trades. You can kind of do a little bit of whatever you want on this bike, but I think people have this misconstruction of that saying of the jack of all trades being only okay at everything, but it's actually a very good bike to kind of get your feet wet and try a lot of different things. So I think it's actually more than just okay at a lot of these things. Another great aspect of this bike is the fact that it actually opens up a lot of doors and allows you to kind of dabble and try different things and customize and try out different things on the bike, because it's a fairly standard build kit. With a lot of modern bikes, we see a lot of kind of complication. You hear a lot of griping around internal cable routing, complicated headsets. And if you've been kind of doing and dabbling bikes a little auxiliary and it's maybe not your life's work like mine, understanding standards of bikes is kind of like nice to go into a bike like this where it's like, it's a very standard normal bottom bracket size, very simple straightforward wheels to kind of handle. You don't have to kind of learn a whole novel of new standards to kind of customize and maybe buy some fun upgrades for your bike. So if you haven't seen our other video or aren't familiar with this model series, we're going to do a quick overview, then we'll talk about the updates. So everything just about is almost the same from the old version. So we still have a lovely steel frame and fork. We have a bunch of adventure mounts. We have pretty generous tire clearance. We have a mixed Claris group set. It's a kind of mixed terrain bike. It's gonna have, not too extreme geometry. It's honestly fairly relaxed as well. If you look, this is, I believe this is a 50 centimeter frame. It has that gentle kind of slope to it. So that front end is relatively tall. It's not excessively long, so it's a little more gentle reach compared to a more traditional road bike, where a road bike might be more leveled off, lower front end, longer front end. So it's gonna put you in a more neutral and a little more relaxed position. So that means longer rides, more comfortable, rougher roads, more comfortable, just general utility, more comfortable. I think a lot of people think comfort, that doesn't mean it's fast. Of course, if you want to kind of make a bike feel faster, a great way to do that is to kind of play with your spacing. You have spacers below the stem. You can easily dabble and try changing your fit as this bike grows with you. I think a lot of people don't understand bike fit isn't inflexible, line in the sand, you never change it. As you ride more, you gain flexibility, you gain strength, and you're actually able to customize and generally ride a more aggressive position if that's what you're into. But I think what's great about this bike is even if you're just a casual rider looking to kind of test the waters, you'll be comfortable on it, but you can also get a little more competitive and kind of try going a little faster as well, or maybe getting into some rougher road riding or gravel adventures as well. So, big difference from the previous model is going to be the fork. The fork has a massive clearance. The last stated clearance for this bike, they said 35C. We had confirmed 38 was good. We've had reports of even 40 fitting, but at that point it gets quite tight. And if you are ever going off-road, sometimes you get some mud. If you don't have enough space up at the fork crown or in the back end, it becomes a big mess. It's really not great. It's not really fun if you have clods of mud jamming up your bike. So mud clearance is a thing. Don't encourage you to ride muddy trails, but it's just a good thing to accommodate for. The other big one would also be the capability to run fenders. If you're maxing out your tire clearance, you can't run fenders. So fenders are super practical. Big tires are fun, they're comfortable, they're capable. Why wouldn't you want both, right? This comes with a WTB Exposure 36C tire. This is reported to clear 45. Frankly, probably could go a little bigger. Haven't tested it yet, it's a little too new. The biggest probably change other than the fork is also the sizing. The Marin Nicasio 1 is gonna be, it used to be 47 up to 60. They've actually changed that a little bit. Now we're just seeing 50 to 60. So you got a 50, 52, 54, 56, 58, 60 in the Marin Nicasio 1. And if you need a smaller size, they've introduced a step-through variant. So all the same changes, all the same frame details basically are echoed in the step-through version. And this video is now going to be talking a little bit about why step-through. Why would someone want to step through? So the first most obvious thing here is we often talk about bike fit, or a basic test for bike fit is stand over. You put your feet flat on the ground, you stand above the top tube. On a traditional, sometimes we call this a diamond frame, you just want to make sure you're not seated on that, or if you have to kind of hop off, you're not going to injure yourself. Frankly, it's a very antiquated measurement. It's good to not be like sitting or like tippy toes above the top tube. That's like a sign the bike's just way too big and you're off the rails for like sizing, not right at all. So sometimes this throws people off a little bit, because ironically, this looks a lot smaller than this. It's actually a size larger. So this is a 52, the one behind me is actually a 50. So the step-through variant is basically the same bike on paper. We obviously have a different color, a different frame with this step-through, but all the same features and all the kind of functionality is echoed in this step-through. Now there's a lot of reasons why some people may or may not want to step through. And in my personal experience, a lot of people have baggage around step throughs. I've seen them growing in popularity again, because I think some people are understanding this baggage is frankly unwarranted. People also have baggage around wheel sizes often, and no judgment, but also I don't really understand why, because a lot of people will benefit from maybe smaller wheel sizes, maybe a step through frame, but again, I'm not here to judge, but I'm just here to steer you in the right direction. So if we're covering the kind of missing smaller size from the previous Nicasio one, the Nicasio step through is going to now be kind of a sliding scale, just down one size. So we still do tackle the ST as a 47, a 50, a 52, 54, 56, right up to 58. And for reference, I'm about 6'2". I'm on the verge from a 58 to a 60, so I could probably still ride the largest size available in this, which is pretty cool. I really like that. We're going to talk quickly about one factor, which is potential hydration options or accessory mounts. So obviously, this part of the frame, the internal part of the frame, is much smaller, which means there isn't really any real estate to put something like a frame bag or something, but mainly bottle cages. If you look on the bike behind me, there's going to be a seat tube mounted, a down tube mounted, below down tube, as well as upper mount here. This upper mount is on a traditional frame, is usually going to be utilized for things like bolt-on frame bag. If we pivot over here, we still do have that top mount. We also have the lower mount. The reality of that is it's a little less useful. This is great still for many hydration options. The lower one, often for like touring applications, sometimes people use auxiliary bottles or like accessory bottles and things, fuel for campers. It's not the greatest. It is kind of in the line of fire from your front wheel, but it's nice they include that. Not my favorite, but a great add-on, and honestly, it's better to have it and not need it than to not have it and need it. Of course, if you still need hydration options, one of the other changes other than the tire clearance on this bike is going to be the fork legs. You'll notice these 3 pack mounts. So these 3 pack mounts, historically, the Marin Nicasio 1 came with 1, then 2, now 3, and 3 means accessory bags and kind of supports are now easily compatible here. Of course, that is still the same exact spacing as a water bottle cage. So you have actually options of having an upper or lower mount. Lower is a little better for weight balancing, but upper means you don't have to reach as far. I'd actually argue this is probably one of the most underrated spots to put water, largely because it's on your steering axis, so reaching down to it is very natural. I'd argue it's actually easier to reach on your fork than actually in your frame, because you're not reaching between your knees, you're reaching just straight down. So now let's talk a little more about specifics of why we might consider a step through. So number one, the standover clearance we talked a little about. This can also be about for more novice or beginner riders who maybe are a little less sure-footed and aren't as comfortable swinging their leg over the top of a bike. So easier to step over, and that translates into a lot of functionality. It can be, maybe you have limited hip mobility. So some people, as they are aging and continuing to ride, wanting to do road mileage, just physically swinging a leg over a bike. I know I've had leg and hip cramps getting off really long rides, and I was kind of seeing myself wishing I had a step through in those moments. Another big kind of elephant in the room is, what if you want to use the bike beyond just like riding for leisure? What if you do want to carry, maybe a child seat, maybe you want to have a basket on the back? If you imagine a child seat here, you would have to physically kick over that child seat on a traditional bike. This way, you can stand more stable, step low over the middle, and then continue on your way. I'll be honest, I don't love child seats on more traditional bikes, mainly due to the fact that they have a high center of gravity. They usually have a fairly compact, short back end, which means you don't have a lot of room for real estate. I would encourage people to consider cargo bikes and trailers as well for kind of optimal performance. But if you're only using the child seat once in a little while, you're not doing serious long mileage, you just gotta drop a kid off here and there, they're really useful, and it's also like the lowest hanging fruit, easiest solution to move a child on a bike. So it's great to have that option. That's another reason of these bikes. They're very functional. We've already covered this in the last video, but of course, if you look at the actual axles here, we have threadings for fenders, racks. We already covered all the hydration and accessory options. Just about anything you'd want to throw at a bike, you can kind of do on this, which is, again, why it's one of the kind of crowd favorites here. I think that kind of covers everything here. I mean, it's basically the one and done if you're trying to do a little bit of everything. You can do road mileage, you can do gravel, you can do touring even. This is still the mixed Claris group set. It's a 2x8, which is a pretty wide range, more road oriented than touring officially. In my mind, touring drivetrains usually are using a triple, but we're seeing a lot of people not using a triple crankset and opting for maybe the double, maybe a 1x, and it really depends on what type of terrain you're riding. The great news is, like we said, this can grow with you. If you really wanted to change up gearing to optimize it for some light touring, you could totally still do it. Seeing as this is a quick release setup, it's also very easy to customize with like a trailer or any auxiliary accessories in that way. So if you haven't already checked it out or seriously consider the Nicasio ST and the Nicasio 1 are two of my top choices for 2025. Come on down, we got a whole size run. Check them out, do a test ride before you make your final choice. Hope to see you soon. Have a good day. See you around. Chaos end. Every sign off in the book.